We are back with another lesson. Okay, before we start today's lesson, let's discuss real and virtual image. Suppose this is a object which is standing in front of a mirror. Now, as this object stands in front of the mirror, what happens? This object forms a image which falls on our eye. Fine. So what you have, this one is my object, and this object forms a image. Let us say I1. It forms an image I1 at our eyes. But for our normal human eye, it appears that the object it's lying somewhere behind the mirror, as you can see. Yeah. So how does our brain interprets? It interprets that the person is standing behind the mirror. Fine. Or I'll say this object forms a second image, a virtual image B. So this is your image I2. Fine. So from here we came across two kinds of images, the one which is formed our eyes and the one which is formed behind the mirror. Okay, but the thing is that the one which is formed in front of our eye is your real, and the one which is formed behind the mirror is not real, so we will call it as a virtual image. Fine. So what actually is a virtual image? So suppose there is a object like in the sense there is a dinosaur which is somewhere at this point. Fine. Now these are your incident ray. Fine. These one, the light is coming from the object. The light comes and it falls on this lens surface. Fine. It falls on this lens surface. Now after refraction, what happens? This light converges. As you can see, they are coming towards one point, isn't it? They are approaching towards a particular point. Let us say somewhere at this point. They are approaching at the point I1. So what will happen? Your reference object, which was here, fine, this was your object. It forms a real image on the right hand side of your lens. Fine. Now this, for if we, now what will appear is as if that light which comes, okay, it appears to diverge. For our normal human eye, the light will appear to diverge from the particular point, okay, like this. Fine. So for our normal human eye, it will appear, that the object is somewhere at this point, but your object is actually at this point. Fine. So what I can say here is that the image which falls on our eye diverge from this point. Fine. This point is your I2. Fine. This point is your I2, whereas your object forms the actual image at point I1. Fine. So this is your real image, this is your virtual image. So one basic difference between your real image and your virtual image is that can you see here the light which passes through this glass surface? Okay, the light which passes through the glass surface, they actually converge at this point. Fine, they actually meet at this point. Fine, but for our normal human eye, it appears that the light diverges from this point. Yeah, the light diverges from this point, as you can see in this figure. So these dotted lines are your imaginary lines. Fine, but this solid lines are your real lines. So what do you notice is that when the rays actually intersect, then they form a real image. Clear? But when the rays appear to diverge from a point, okay, appear to spread from this point or appear to coming out from this point, so what we have said, appear to, that means it is imaginary. Okay, these dotted lines are your imaginary dotted lines. I have drawn this dotted lines for our simplicity. Fine, so when it appears to be coming out of this point, in that case what kind of image is formed? The image is formed is your virtual image. Fine, so let's take one more example. Suppose this is your candle. Fine, this is my candle. Now suppose I keep a lens in front of this candle. Fine, now this lens forms a real image behind the screen. As you can see here, what this lens is doing, this lens is forming the real image of this candle on the screen. Fine, as you can see, it is forming the image on this wall. This wall is my screen, and here can you see the bright image? This bright image is the image obtained by this object. So what kind of image is this one? This one is your real image. Fine, now come to the second figure. Now in this second figure, let us again use the same apparatus. Suppose let us take a candle, but this time we will take a different kind of lens. Fine, fine, different kind of lens in the sense is that this is your convex lens. Fine, and this is your concave lens. Now in case of concave lens, you have formed a real image. Now look, come to the case of your convex lens. Fine, now let us keep a candle in front of your convex lens. Now look carefully. What do you notice is that this objects form a image. Can you see the image of this candle? This image is formed behind the lens. Okay, but behind the lens in the sense that, is it forming the image on the screen, on the wall? No. Fine, whereas in this case, is it forming the image on the wall? Yes. So this kind of image, the image formed here is what kind of image? This is your real image. Fine, where the rays are actually intersecting after being passing through a lens. Can you see? They actually intersect. Clear? But now look at the second case. In case of your convex mirror, sorry, convex lens. Now in this case, what do you notice is that it seems like my candle is somewhere behind this lens, isn't it? It appears like my candle is somewhere behind this. Is that it is forming a what kind of image? Virtual image. Whether this image is really behind this lens, the answer is no. Fine. So the The point here is that for now you can understand only this thing, is that when the light passes through this lens and when they intersect, then in that case you will form a real image. Fine. When the light passes through the lens and the rays actually intersect, as in this case, can you see it forms the image on the screen. Fine. Now in this case, when the light appears to be coming from behind the lens, okay, appears to be coming, okay, actually there is no object behind the lens, but there is a candle behind this lens, isn't it, behind this lens. So when the rays appears to be coming out from the object, or when the object up, or when the rays diverge from a point, okay, when it appears to diverge from a point, in that case what kind of image it will form? Virtual image. So in the case of virtual image, okay, very carefully, suppose the light comes from here and it goes in this direction, the light comes from here and it goes in this direction. Fine, forget about this real image, okay, don't consider the real image, just consider the virtual image. Fine. Now in this case, what do you notice? The light comes and it goes here, the light comes and it goes here. Now in this case, the image is formed, isn't it? The image is definitely formed, but are the rays intersecting? The question is that the rays, are they intersecting in this case? Whether they are intersecting? No. So if an image is formed where the refracted ray, or let us say reflected ray, okay, refracted ray and reflected ray are the two types of rays. Refraction we will discuss in the further upcoming classes. For now, let's stick to reflection. Fine. So in the case when the reflected rays do not coincide, okay, can you see, are the rays coinciding? No. When the rays do not coincide, then what kind of image will be formed? Virtual image. Clear? The image formed when the rays do not coincide, then it is a virtual image. In the case when the light appears to converge, can you see the light, they are actually intersecting at this point. They are actually coming and intersecting at this point. So when the image is formed due to the intersection of the rays, in that case what kind of image will be formed? A real image. Fine. Better understanding, I can also say is that when the image can be obtained on the screen, can you see this white wall? This white wall is my screen. Fine. Screen are the plane surface where the image can be formed, like the ones which are there in your theaters, isn't it? Those are your screen. Fine. So can you see this white wall? This white wall acts as your screen. So when a image can be obtained on the screen, can you see there is an image which is being obtained on the screen, then what kind of image is formed? Real image. And why the image is being projected on the screen? Because the rays actually intersect. What happens at the screen? The rays will appear. Suppose some source is here, the light comes from here, it gets reflected and it gets projected on a screen. Fine, this is your screen. So when the images can be projected on a screen, then those kind of images are known as your real images. Fine, such kind of images are known as your real images. Now come to your virtual image. When the image cannot be obtained on the screen, suppose if I want to put this image? Can you see the image of this candle on a screen? Is it possible to put this image on a screen? Where should I keep the screen? Behind this lens, so that it projects the image on the screen. Will it project the image? No. What happens if I keep it in front of this lens? Fine. Will it project this image on the screen which is in front of this lens? No. Fine. So when the image cannot be projected on a screen, okay, when the image cannot be projected on the screen, in that case, what kind of image will be formed? Virtual image. And why the virtual image is formed? Because the rays do not intersect. Okay, the rays do not intersect, but instead they appear to be coming out from some point. Okay, or just let's keep it simple. If the rays do not intersect and the image is formed, in that case, what kind of image is this one? Virtual image. And this virtual image cannot be obtained on any screen. Fine. So let us revise. So if the image, or if this rays intersects at a certain point to form an image on the screen, such kind of image is known as your real image. Fine. When the image, or when the rays do not intersect, okay, the rays do not intersect. Can you see? The rays are moving away from this one. Okay, will they ever intersect? No. So in that case, what kind of image will be formed? The image form will be your virtual. If a virtual image is formed, that means it cannot be projected on any screen. So there are two basic difference. The first one is that for the real image, the rays actually intersect. Second point, the image can be obtained on a screen. What about your virtual image? In case of your virtual image, the rays do not intersect. The rays do not intersect. And the second point, the image cannot be obtained on a screen. Fine. Fine. Now let's start today's class. In today's class, we'll discuss formation of image by concave mirror. Now, in this topic, we will draw the ray diagram showing the formation of image by mirror for different objects placed on the principal axis. Fine. So the first one is when your object CA. This is my object. Okay. This is my object. This object is placed on the principal axis and in the upright position. Fine. Now let us consider our first ray. This ray moves parallel to the principal axis. Fine. Now after moving parallel to the principal axis, it gets reflected and then it passes through the point F. As we know from the rules of the mirror, whenever incident ray moves parallel to the, or it is incident parallel to the principal axis, after reflection it moves along the point F, or it passes through the point F. Fine. Similarly, consider your second ray. This one is your second ray. If the ray passes through the point F, in that case what will happen? After reflection it will move parallel to the principal axis. Okay, so those of you who are having confusion how the rays are moving after reflection, how they are passing through the principal axis, if you have any confusion from this topic, then I will suggest you to go back to my previous topic where I have discussed in detail about the rules how the image will be formed or what will happen to the rays after reflection. Fine. So coming back to our topic now, in this case, can you see at this point B? At this point B, what happens? The two rays intersect. Fine. If the two rays intersect at this point, what happens? A image is formed. Okay, I'm representing the image by this red line. Fine. So this is your image. An image is formed at the point C. So the first point is that the image will be formed at C. And what is C? C is your center of curvature. Fine. The second point is the image formed is real. Real means, in this case, can you see the reflected rays, this yellow line and this reflected blue line? What happens? They are actually intersecting. Now if they actually intersect, what kind of image will it form? It will form a real image. Fine. The next is that, can you see my object? My object is pointing upwards, but what about the image? The image form is pointing downwards. So in our case, the image form will be inverted. Fine. This image will be inverted. And finally, look at the size. The size of the object is same as the size of the image. Hence, the image will have the same size as object. Fine. Now coming to our second one, when the object OA is placed beyond center of curvature. This point is center of curvature. Fine. When it is placed beyond center of curvature. Now let us consider your first ray. This is your first ray. This ray moves parallel to the principal axis. After reflection, it passes through the focus. Can you see? It is passing through the focus. Consider your second ray. This ray, it passes through the center of curvature. After reflection, it follows the same path. Fine, it will move along the same direction. Now, in this case, the image will be formed at this intersection point. Fine. So the image formed is IB. Now, the image form IB is formed between the center of curvature C and your principal focus capital F. So the image is formed between C and F. Fine. Now in this case also, the reflected rays actually intersect at this point B. So what kind of image? It will be a real image. Fine. Coming to our third point, see, this is the direction of the object, but whereas the image, it is pointing downwards, hence it will be a inverted image. Fine. Now next, compare the size. This is the size of the object, this is the size of the image. Thus the image appears to be smaller than the object. Fine. Moving to our next one, when the object is placed between the focus and your center of curvature. Fine. Now in this case, let us say my object, this is my object OA. This object is placed between the principal focus capital F and your center of curvature capital C. Fine. Now let us start with our first ray. The ray which moves parallel to the principal axis. After reflection, it will pass through the focus. As you can see, this is your reflected ray. Fine. Now let us consider our second ray. A ray which moves in this direction. Fine. After reflection, it will follow the same path. That means this reflected ray will pass through the center of curvature. Fine. And the two rays will intersect at this point. this point is your B. Therefore, at point B, a image I will be formed. The image will be IB. Fine. So again, in this case, the image form will be behind the center of curvature, or I'll say beyond the center of curvature. Next one. See, the rays, the reflected rays, they are actually intersecting. If they are actually intersecting, then in that case, a real image will be formed. This image will be real. Coming to our third point, this is the direction of the object. The object is pointing upwards, whereas the image is pointing downwards. So in this case, what kind of image will be formed? Inverted image. Fine. Now compare the size of the object. In this case, the object is this is your object. This object seems smaller than the image. Thus, the image size will be larger than the object. Fine. Now let us consider when the object is placed at your focus, principal focus, capital F. When the object is placed at your focus, capital F. Fine. This FA is your object. Now let us consider your first ray. This is the first ray. It moves parallel to the principal axis. After reflection, it passes through the focus. Fine. Now consider your second ray. This second ray moves in this direction. After reflection, it passes through the center of curvature. Now look here very carefully. The rays do not, or let us say they are moving parallel, and they don't appear to be intersecting at any point. Fine. Or I'll say they are intersecting at infinity. Okay, at very far distance, this ray will appear to be intersect. Fine. So where will our image will be formed? The image will be formed at infinity. Fine. So for the object placed at the principal focus, the image will be formed at infinity. Fine. Coming to the next one, what happens when we keep our object between the focus F and the pole P? So this is your object OA. Fine. Now let us consider a light which moves parallel to the principal axis. After reflection, it passes through the focus. Fine. Let us consider your second light. This light moves in this direction, and after reflection, it appears to be passing through the center of curvature. Now, in this case, are the two rays intersecting? No. So what it seems like that these two rays appears to be diverging. That means they are moving away from a point. And if let us draw a imaginary line, this dot line and this dot line. Fine. So if you look carefully, okay, it seems that the two rays, this two reflected rays, this one and this one, these two reflected rays appears to be diverged from this point P. Fine. So in this case, a image will be formed at IB. Fine. So the first point is that where is the image from? Is it from in front of the mirror or behind the mirror? It is from behind the mirror. Fine. Coming to our second point. The second point is that the image. Can you see this image? Okay. For this image, are the rays actually intersecting? Like the previous cases where the reflected rays intersected. In this case, the rays are intersecting? No, but they are appear to be. Okay, it seems like they are coming from some point. So what kind of image it will form? It will form a virtual image. Fine, this forms a virtual image. Coming to our third point. Now look here. The object is pointing in the upward direction. Fine. what about the image? The image is also pointing in the upward direction. Hence, what the image form will be erect. Fine. Now compare the size of the image. This is the size of the image. This is the size of the object. Now it seems that the image is larger than the object. Fine. Right. Now let's discuss the formation of image by convex mirror. Now draw the ray diagram showing the formation of image by a convex mirror. Okay, for convex mirror, it's very simple. Okay, only one kind of image will be formed. Let's take a look at the kind of image. Suppose this is your object. This is my object. This, let us start with our first ray. This is my first ray. It moves parallel to the principal axis, and after reflection, what happens? It diverges or it moves outwards. Fine. Now it seems that it appears to be moving outward from which point? From your point F. Fine. Now consider your second ray. The ray comes, it strikes the mirror at this point. After reflection, it goes in this direction. Fine. But for this third ray, what does it seems? It seems that the rays are appear to be coming from this point C. Can you see this dotted line? The third ray appears to be seen that the rays are coming from this center of curvature. Fine. Now in this case, where will be the image form? The image will be formed at this point. Fine. First thing let us discuss is that where is the image formed? The image is formed behind the mirror. The image is formed behind the mirror. Now look carefully. Okay, I'll draw only the reflected. The first ray, it goes in. This one is your reflected light. Fine. This one is your reflected. This is your second ray. It goes and strikes the mirror at this point. After reflection, it moves in this direction. Fine. Now tell me whether the two reflected rays will they intersect at any point? No. Fine. But if we draw the virtual lines, can you see, if you draw the virtual lines, they seem to be intersecting at this point. Clear? So what kind of image will be formed? Look, listen very carefully. Okay, the rays, the reflected rays are not intersecting, but who are intersecting? The virtual lines. Therefore, are the rays actually intersecting? No. If the rays do not intersect, then what kind of image will be formed? The image formed is your virtual. Okay. See, the reflected rays do not intersect, hence what kind of image? Virtual image. Fine. Now the next point. This is the object. It is pointing in the upward direction. This is the image. It is also pointing in the upward direction. So what kind of image? Erect image. Fine. Now finally compare the size. This is the size of the image. This is the size of the object. Now the image seems smaller than the object. Fine. So that's it for today's class. Thank you. And if you have any confusion, please don't hesitate to ask. I will re-explain it to you again. So thank you.